I, 42F, stood near the cake, trying to look happy. It was my mother's 70th birthday party. The whole family was here. My sister Clara walked over to me. She was holding a glass of champagne. She smiled a bright, fake smile. "It must be nice," she said. Her voice was low, just for me. I looked at her. "What must be nice?" I asked. "This," she said, waving her glass around the room. "To just show up, no stress, no responsibility. You are finally irrelevant." The words hit me like a slap. Irrelevant. She said it so easily, so cheerfully. I felt the air leave my lungs. All I could do was stare at her. She just kept smiling, that perfect, cruel smile. She took a sip of her champagne and walked away to join a circle of cousins, leaving me alone by the cake. I wanted to leave. I wanted to run out of the house and never speak to her again. But it was my mother's party. I could not make a scene. I took a deep breath. I told myself her words did not matter. But they did. They echoed in my head. Irrelevant. 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 My daughter, Lily, 16F, came to my side. She must have seen the look on my face. "Are you okay, Mom?" she asked. I tried to smile for her. "I am fine, sweetie. Just a little tired." Lily did not look convinced. She glanced over at Clara, who was now laughing loudly at something someone said. Lily's eyes narrowed. She knew Clara was the reason I was upset. My daughter was smart. She saw everything. "Aunt Clara is being mean again, isn't she?" Lily asked quietly. I did not want to pull her into this. Not tonight. "It is nothing, Lily. Let's just enjoy the party for your grandma," I said. But Lily did not let it go. She looked from me to Clara, then back to me. She seemed to be making a decision. Her face was serious. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. "Mom," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "I think you need to see something." My heart started beating faster. I did not know what she could possibly show me on her phone that mattered right now. But the look in her eyes told me it was important. She held the phone out to me. On the screen was a group chat. The name of the chat was Project Freedom. My stomach twisted. I looked at Lily. She just nodded, urging me to read. I took the phone from her hand. My own hands were trembling slightly. The members of the group chat were my sister, Clara, and my mother, Helen. My own mother. I started to read the messages, and the world began to fall apart around me. The messages went back for weeks. They were all about me. Clara started the chat. The first message I saw was from her. "Phase 1 is complete. Mom's party is the perfect place to remind Sarah of her place." My mother had replied with a thumbs up emoji. A thumbs up, to a message about putting me in my place. I scrolled up. My breath caught in my throat. The messages were a blur of cruelty and planning. "She is so sensitive," Clara wrote in one message. "Just a few words about how she contributes nothing, and she will fold." "Be gentle, Clara," my mother wrote back. "We need her to feel a little lost, not angry. We need her signature later." Her signature? What signature? What were they talking about? I kept scrolling, my eyes scanning the words faster and faster. It was all there, a deliberate plan. Project Freedom, they called it. It was a project to make me feel so small, so useless that I would agree to anything. "I will tell her she is irrelevant tonight," Clara had written just that morning. That should set the stage perfectly. "Good," my mother replied. "I will act surprised if she mentions it to me. I will tell her she is being too sensitive." I felt sick. This was not just my sister being casually cruel. This was a calculated attack. And my mother was in on it. She was helping. She was encouraging it. The woman who was supposed to love me unconditionally was part of a plan to tear me down. Lily touched my arm gently. "Mom?" she whispered. I could not speak. I just handed the phone back to her. The noise of the party seemed to fade into a dull roar. I saw my mother across the room, smiling and accepting a gift from a guest. She looked so happy, so normal. How could she be this person in the group chat? How could she be so two-faced? What signature? I finally managed to say to Lily. My voice was hoarse. Lily looked down. She scrolled through the phone again, her fingers flying across the screen. I do not know for sure, she said, but they keep talking about the house. Grandma's house. Of course, the house. My father had passed away 5 years ago. He had left the house to my mother with the understanding that when she was gone, it would be split equally between me and Clara. It was our childhood home. It was worth a lot of money, but to me it was more than that. It was full of memories. What about the house? I asked, a sense of dread washing over me. Aunt Clara wants to sell it, Lily said, her voice low. But Grandma does not want to. So Clara has another idea. Something about a loan. She said you would not understand the finances anyway. I felt a cold anger replace the shock. They thought I was stupid. They thought I was so irrelevant and clueless that I would just sign away my future, my inheritance, because they told me to. Because they made me feel bad about myself. She is wrong, I said. The words came out stronger than I expected. She is very wrong. I looked over at my sister again. She caught my eye and gave me a little pitying smile as if to say, "See, you are all alone." But she was wrong. I was not alone. I had my daughter, and now I had their entire plan right in the palm of my hand. The party was no longer a party. It was a battlefield. And they had just handed me all the ammunition I would ever need. I knew right then that I would not be folding. I would not be signing anything. And Project Freedom was about to end, but not in the way they had planned. I gave Lily her phone back. "Thank you for showing me this," I whispered. "You have no idea what you just did." She gave my hand a squeeze. "I am on your side, Mom. Always." That was all I needed to hear. My resolve hardened. They wanted me to feel irrelevant. I was about to show them just how relevant I could be. I needed to think. I needed a plan of my own. I excused myself, telling Lily I was going to get some fresh air. I walked out onto the back porch. The cool night air felt good on my hot face. I leaned against the railing and took a few deep breaths, trying to calm the storm inside me. Betrayal was a bitter taste. It was one thing for Clara to be her usual jealous self. We had been rivals our whole lives. She was the pretty one, the popular one. I was the quiet one, the smart one. Our mother had always favored Clara, always made excuses for her behavior. I had learned to live with it. But this was different. This was a conspiracy. My mother's involvement was what cut the deepest. She had always preached about the importance of family. "We have to stick together," she would say. And all along, she was plotting against me with my sister. The hypocrisy was staggering. I thought about the signature they wanted. It had to be related to the house. Clara probably wanted me to sign a quitclaim deed, or something that would remove my name from any future ownership. That would free her up to use the house as collateral for a loan, just as Lily had suspected. Clara had always lived beyond her means, always chasing a lifestyle she could not afford. It made sense that she would be in financial trouble. My mind started working. I could confront them right now. I could walk back into that party, phone in hand, and expose them in front of everyone. The thought was tempting. I imagined the looks on their faces, the shock, the shame. But no, that was not the right way. A public explosion would be messy. People would take sides. It would become a huge family drama. And knowing my family, I might somehow still end up looking like the bad guy. My mother was a master at playing the victim. She would cry and say I had misunderstood. Clara would deny everything and call me crazy. I needed a better strategy. I needed to be smarter than them. They thought I was emotional and weak. I would use that to my advantage. I would play their game, but I would play it better. I went back inside. I found Lily and told her I was getting a headache and was going to go home. I gave my mother a quick hug and wished her a happy birthday. Are you feeling all right, dear? She asked, her face a mask of concern. You look pale. I am just a little tired, Mom, I said, repeating my earlier lie. It was a wonderful party. Oh, I am so glad you think so, she said, beaming. Clara did most of the work, you know. She is such a wonder. I just smiled. It was a tight, painful smile, but I held it. Yes, she is, I said. I said goodbye to a few other relatives and then headed for the door with Lily. As we were leaving, Clara caught up to us. Leaving so soon? She asked, her tone dripping with false sympathy. Is everything okay? Just a headache, I said, not looking her in the eye. Have a good night. You too, she said. I could feel her watching us as we walked to the car. She probably thought her plan was working perfectly. She probably thought I was running home to feel sorry for myself. In the car, Lily was quiet for a few minutes. Then she said, What are you going to do? I am going to get to the bottom of this, I told her, and then I am going to make them regret it. The next morning, I woke up with a clear head. The anger and hurt were still there, but they were now focused. I had a purpose. My first step was to gather more information. Lily had given me the what, but I needed the why and the how. I called my Aunt Carol. She was my father's sister, a no-nonsense woman who had always been fair to both me and Clara. She was not at the party, as she lived a few states away. That made her the perfect person to talk to. She would be neutral. Sarah, what a nice surprise, she said when she answered. Hi, Aunt Carol. How are you? I asked, making small talk for a few minutes. I asked about her garden and her grandkids. Then I steered the conversation to my mother. I was just at Mom's birthday party yesterday, I said. She seems to be doing well. Oh, that is good to hear, Aunt Carol said. I worry about her sometimes, all alone in that big house. This was my opening. Yes, it is a big house, I agreed. I was actually thinking about that recently. Dad's will was pretty straightforward about it, right? That it goes to me and Clara when Mom is gone? That is right, she confirmed. He was very clear about that. He wanted to make sure both his girls were taken care of. Why do you ask? I had to be careful here. Oh, no reason really, I said lightly. Clara just made a comment the other day that got me thinking. Something about the upkeep being a lot for Mom. She mentioned maybe selling it. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Selling it? Aunt Carol said. Helen would never sell that house. Your father built it. It is her whole world. That is what I thought, I said. It was just a strange comment from Clara. She also mentioned something about finances. Is she okay? Money-wise? Aunt Carol sighed. It was a heavy, weary sound. Between you and me, Sarah, I have been worried about Clara, she confessed. Her husband's business has not been doing well. And Clara, well, Clara likes to spend. Your mother has been helping her out. A lot. Bingo. This confirmed what Lily and I had suspected. Clara was in financial trouble, and she was leaning on our mother. Mom is helping her? I asked, feigning surprise. That is generous of her. Too generous, if you ask me, Aunt Carol said. Helen has a soft heart, especially for Clara. She would give her anything, but she is on a fixed income. There is only so much she can do. Unless, I thought, she could get access to the value of the house. Well, thanks for listening, Aunt Carol, I said. It was probably just idle chatter from Clara. You know how she can be. I do, Aunt Carol said dryly. You be careful, Sarah. Do not let your sister or your mother push you into anything you are not comfortable with. I will not, I promised. Thank you. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. Aunt Carol's words confirmed everything. Clara was desperate. My mother was enabling her. And I was the obstacle they needed to remove. The irrelevant comment was not just an insult, it was a tool. A weapon to make me feel worthless so I would give up what was rightfully mine. My next step was to confront Clara. Not a big dramatic confrontation, but a small one. A test. I needed to see how she would react when I pushed back just a little. I waited 2 days. Then I called her. "Hello?" She answered, her voice bright and cheerful. "Hi, Clara. It is Sarah," I said. "Sarah, I was worried about you," she said, laying on the fake concern. "You ran out of Mom's party so fast. Is your headache better?" "I am fine," I said, keeping my voice even. "I was actually calling about something you said at the party." There was a brief silence. "What did I say?" she asked, her voice suddenly wary. "You said I was irrelevant," I stated plainly. She laughed, a high, tinkling sound that grated on my nerves. "Oh, Sarah, you are so sensitive. I was just teasing you. You know how I get after a glass of champagne." "It did not feel like teasing, Clara," I said. "It felt mean." "Well, I am sorry if you took it that way," she said, but there was no apology in her tone. It was the kind of apology that puts the blame back on you. "Honestly, I just meant that you are lucky. You do not have to worry about all the family responsibilities that I do. You have a much simpler life." Simpler. That was another one of her code words for lesser. "My life is not simple, Clara," I said calmly. "And I do worry about family responsibilities. For example, I have been thinking a lot about Mom in the house." The line went quiet again. I had her attention. "What about the house?" she asked, her voice tight. "Aunt Carol mentioned that you were worried about the upkeep for Mom," I said, using the information I had gathered, "and that you had suggested selling it." I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. She was caught off guard. "Well, yes," she stammered. "It is a big house for one woman. We have to be practical." "Mom would never sell," I stated. "You know that." "Things change. Sarah," she snapped, her patience clearly wearing thin. "People have to make tough decisions. It is something you would not understand." "Try me," I said. "Look, I have to go," she said abruptly. "I am in the middle of something. We can talk about this later." And then she hung up. I put my phone down. The test was a success. I had pushed and she had panicked. She had resorted to her usual tactics, calling me sensitive, belittling my life, and then running away when she could not control the conversation. She was not as clever as she thought she was. I now had confirmation from a neutral party and had seen Clara's defensive reaction firsthand. The picture was becoming clearer, but I was still missing the final piece of the puzzle. The hard evidence, the smoking gun. I knew Lily had shown me the text messages, but a recording of a phone call? That was something else entirely. I had to talk to Lily again. That evening, I sat down with Lily in the living room. I told her about my call with Aunt Carol and my conversation with Clara. She totally panicked when I mentioned the house. I said, "She is definitely hiding something." Lily nodded. "I told you, Mom." "You were right," I admitted. "And I need to ask you something else. When you showed me your phone at the party, I was so upset I did not really process everything. You said something about a loan, and did you mention a recording?" Lily's face changed. She looked guilty. She looked down at her hands. "Yeah," she said quietly. "A recording of what?" I pressed gently. "A phone call," she mumbled, "between Grandma and Aunt Clara." My heart skipped a beat. "You recorded them?" She looked up, her eyes wide. "It was an accident. At first, I was on the phone with Grandma asking her about a recipe, and then Aunt Clara called her on the other line. Grandma told me to hold on, but I guess she did not put me on hold properly. I could hear everything they were saying." This was it. This was the breakthrough. "What did they say, Lily?" I asked, my voice tense. "It was awful, Mom," she said, her voice trembling a little. "They were talking about you." Aunt Clara was saying she had found a way to solve her money problems. She said she had a friend at a bank who would give her a big loan if she could use the house as security. And what did Grandma say? I asked, dreading the answer. She was worried at first, Lily said. She said, "But the house belongs to both of you girls." And Aunt Clara said, "Not if Sarah signs her part away." And she will. Grandma asked how she could be so sure. And that is when Aunt Clara, she said something terrible. What did she say? I urged. Lily took a shaky breath. She said, "Because I have spent years making her feel like nothing. And Mom, you have helped me. She thinks you love me more. She thinks she is a disappointment. When I tell her she needs to do this for the family, she will do it. She will think it is her one chance to finally be important." The cruelty of it stole my breath. It was not just about money. It was a long game of psychological manipulation. They had been chipping away at my self-worth for years, all leading to this moment. Also, Clara could cash in. "And Grandma?" I whispered. "What did she say to that?" Lily looked miserable. "She was quiet for a long time," she said. Then she just said, "All right, Clara, but you have to be the one to ask her. I cannot do it." My own mother. She knew it was wrong. She knew it was a cruel, manipulative plan, but she agreed to it anyway. She gave Clara her blessing to break my heart for money. "Did you record it, Lily?" I asked, my voice hard as steel. "Do you have the recording?" Lily nodded slowly. I realized they did not know I was listening. I was so angry. So I hit the record button on my phone. I have the whole thing. A wave of something fierce and protective washed over me. This was not just about me anymore. This was about my daughter, who had been put in this impossible position. Forced to listen to her own grandmother and aunt plotting against her mother. "Lily," I said, taking her hands, "you did nothing wrong. You were put in a terrible situation, and you did what you thought was right. Can I have a copy of that recording?" "Of course, Mom," she said, her relief obvious. "I will send it to you right now." A few moments later, my phone buzzed. The audio file was there. I had the proof. I had their voices. I had their entire disgusting plan, recorded for posterity. Clara thought I was irrelevant. My mother thought I was weak. They were both about to find out how wrong they were. Project Freedom was about to live up to its name. But it would be my freedom, not theirs. Freedom from their manipulation, their lies, and their toxic influence on my life. I spent the next day planning. I listened to the recording over and over again until I had memorized every word, every hesitation in my mother's voice, every drop of venom in my sister's. Each time I listened, my resolve grew stronger. There would be no more quiet suffering. No more making myself small to keep the peace. I needed a confidant, someone outside the family to help me think clearly. I called my best friend, Jessica. "Jess, I need to see you," I said as soon as she answered. "Something has happened." We met for coffee an hour later. I told her everything. I started with Clara's comment at the party, the text messages Lily had shown me, the call with Aunt Carol, the tense conversation with Clara, and finally, the recording. Jessica listened patiently, her expression growing more and more horrified as I spoke. When I was finished, she was silent for a full minute. "Sarah," she finally said, "this is monstrous. I always knew Clara was a piece of work, but this is a whole other level. And your mom? I am so sorry." "Do not be sorry," I said, my voice firm. "Be angry with me. I have been sorry for myself for too long." "Okay, I am angry," she said, a fire lighting in her eyes. "I am furious. What they have done to you is unforgivable. So, what is the plan? How are we going to burn it all down?" I almost smiled. That was why Jessica was my best friend. She did not coddle me. She got straight to the point. "I am not sure yet," I admitted. My first instinct is to just play the recording for the entire family, but I do not know if that is the smartest move. Let's think it through, Jessica said, leaning forward. What is the goal here? Is it just revenge? Or is it something more? It was a good question. What did I really want? I wanted Clara to face consequences for her actions. I wanted my mother to understand the depth of her betrayal. But most of all, I wanted to protect my future and my daughter's future. I wanted to secure my share of the house, not for the money, but for the principle. It was what my father had wanted. The goal is to stop them, I said. I need to make sure Clara cannot get that loan. I need to make sure my rights to the house are protected. And I want them to know that I know. I want to see their faces when they realize I'm not the fool they think I am. Okay, Jessica said, nodding. So, a public shaming might not be the best way to achieve the practical goal. It might just make them dig in their heels and deny everything. Your mom could cry, say the recording was taken out of context. Clara could claim you were trying to ruin her life out of jealousy. You are right, I said. They would twist it. So, what if you use the recording not as a bomb, but as a key? She suggested. You do not have to blow the door off its hinges. You can just unlock it and walk through. I looked at her, intrigued. What do you mean? You arrange a meeting, she said. Just you, Clara, and your mom. You tell them you need to discuss the future of the house. You control the setting. You control the conversation. You do not lead with the recording. You lead with questions. You let them lie. You let them dig their own hole. I started to see it. A quiet, controlled confrontation. You ask them about Clara's finances. Jessica continued, her voice getting more animated. You ask them about the loan. You ask them what they want you to sign. You let them spin their whole story about what is best for the family. And then, when the hole is so deep they can never climb out, you do not play the recording. You just mention it. Just mention it? I asked. Yes, she said. You say something like, that is a very interesting story. It is quite different from the one you told on the phone last week. The one Lily happened to overhear. You watch them crumble. You do not need to play it. The knowledge that it exists is enough. It is your leverage, your power. It was brilliant. It was so much better than my own messy plan. It was strategic. It was clean. It would give me everything I wanted. The practical result and the emotional satisfaction. And then what? I asked. Then you state your terms? Jessica said. No signature. No loan. And maybe you suggest a legal agreement drawn up by your lawyer that states the house cannot be sold or used as collateral while your mother is alive, and that upon her passing, it must be appraised and split exactly 50-50 with no exceptions. You make them sign it. They would never sign that, I said. They will, Jessica said confidently. They will sign it because the alternative is you playing that recording for Aunt Carol, for your cousins, for everyone. The alternative is total humiliation and the complete destruction of your mother's perfect family image. They will sign. I felt a surge of adrenaline. This was the plan. This was how I would do it. You are a genius, I told her. No, she said, smiling. I am just a good friend who is tired of seeing you get pushed around. You are the one who has to do it, Sarah. Can you? I thought of Clara's smug smile. I thought of my mother's thumbs-up emoji. I thought of the word irrelevant. Yes, I said. I can. I went home and called my mother. Mom, I need to talk to you and Clara, I said, my voice calm and steady. It is important. It is about the house. Oh? My mother said, a note of caution in her voice. What about it? I think it is best if we all discuss it together, in person, I said. Can you both come over to my place on Saturday? There was a pause. I could hear her thinking, probably consulting with Clara via text message. I suppose we can do that, she said finally. Is everything all right? Everything is fine, Mom, I said. I just think it is time we all got on the same page. Saturday at 2? 2 o'clock is fine, she said. The trap was set. The 2 days leading up to the meeting were the longest of my life. I felt a strange mix of terror and exhilaration. I went over the plan with Jessica a dozen times. I practiced what I would say. I prepared myself for their lies, their denials, their anger. Lily was my rock. She could see the stress I was under. "You can do this, Mom," she told me the night before the meeting. "Just remember what they did. They do not deserve your kindness." She was right. I was not doing this to be cruel. I was doing this to be fair. I was fighting for the respect they had denied me for so long. Saturday arrived. The sky was gray and overcast, matching my mood. I spent the morning cleaning the house, a nervous energy buzzing through me. I needed everything to be in its place. I needed to feel in control. At exactly 2 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I took a deep breath and opened it. My mother and Clara stood on the porch. They had matching strained expressions. They looked like they were walking into a dentist's appointment. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. They walked into my living room and sat down on the sofa. I sat in the armchair opposite them. The room was silent for a moment. "So," my mother said, breaking the silence, "you wanted to talk about the house." "Yes," I said. "I have been doing a lot of thinking since your party." I looked at Clara. "You said something that stuck with me, Clara. You said I was irrelevant." Clara shifted uncomfortably. "Sarah, we have been over this." I was joking. "I do not think you were," I said calmly. "I think you meant it. I think you believe I am irrelevant. And I think you have been working very hard to make me feel that way." My mother jumped in. "Sarah, that is a terrible thing to say. Your sister loves you." I turned my gaze to my mother. "Does she? Do you?" Because from where I am sitting, it looks like you have both been working together on something. Something you have been hiding from me. They exchanged a quick, panicked glance. "This is it. I am in control now." "I do not know what you are talking about," Clara said, her voice sharp. "I think you do," I replied, keeping my own voice level. "Let's talk about your finances, Clara." Her face paled. "My finances are none of your business." "They become my business when they involve our family home," I said. "I know you are in trouble. I know you have been looking for a way out, and I know your plan involves me." "This is ridiculous," my mother said, her voice rising. "Sarah, what has gotten into you? You are making wild accusations." "Am I?" I asked. I leaned forward, my eyes locked on them. "Let me be more specific. You need a loan, Clara? A very large loan. And to get it, you need to use the house as collateral. But you cannot do that as long as I have a future claim to it. So you need me to sign away my rights. Is that not the plan?" The color drained from both of their faces. They were stunned into silence. They had drastically underestimated me. Clara recovered first. She tried to bluff. "You are crazy," she spat. "You have concocted some paranoid fantasy." "It is not a fantasy," I said. "It is the truth. You have a whole project, do you not? Project Freedom, you call it. A project to manipulate me, to make me feel worthless so I would sign a piece of paper without asking any questions." My mother made a small, choked sound. She looked like she was about to faint. How could you know that?" she whispered. "It does not matter how I know," I said. "I just know. I know everything." Now, the present tense kicks in, just as I planned. The confrontation is happening right now. My heart is pounding, but my voice is steady. I feel a strange calm. "This is absurd," Clara says, but her voice is shaking. She is trying to sound angry, but she just sounds scared. "You have no proof." I look at her. I hold her gaze. "Do I not?" I ask softly. "This is the moment Jessica and I talked about. The key. I do not need to yell. I do not need to show them the phone. I just need to let them know that I have it. It is funny. I say, leaning back in my chair. I am making a show of being relaxed. You both have one version of the story, but I heard a different one. The one you discussed on the phone last Tuesday. The one where you laid out the whole plan. My mother gasps. Her hand flies to her mouth. Her eyes are wide with terror. She knows exactly which call I am talking about. Clara just stares at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. No sound comes out. Lily was on the other line. I continue, my voice even and cold. She was on hold, or at least she was supposed to be. She heard everything, every single word. About my simpler life. About how I would fold because I am so desperate for your approval, Mom. About how I am just an irrelevant obstacle to be managed. The silence in the room is deafening. It is the sound of their world collapsing. The sound of their lies being exposed. She recorded it, I say, delivering the final blow. I do not raise my voice. I do not need to. The words are heavy enough to crush them. My mother starts to cry. Not loud, dramatic sobs, but quiet, horrified tears. Sarah, I did not. You did not what, Mom? I ask, my voice hard. You did not mean it? You did not think I would find out? You went along with it. You encouraged her. You were her partner in this. Clara finally finds her voice. It is a weak, desperate whisper. What do you want, Sarah? I turn to her. The arrogant, confident sister I have known my whole life is gone. In her place is a frightened, cornered woman. It is not as satisfying as I thought it would be. It is just pathetic. What do I want? I repeat. I want this to end. All of it. The lies, the manipulation, the constant disrespect. I stand up and walk over to the small desk in the corner of my living room. I pick up a folder. I walk back and place it on the coffee table in front of them. This is what I want, I say. Clara reaches for it with a trembling hand. She opens it. Inside is a legal document. What is this? She asks. That is an agreement, I say. Drawn up by my lawyer. It states that as long as Mom is alive, the house cannot be sold, mortgaged, or used as collateral for any loan, by anyone, for any reason. It further states that upon her death, the house will be professionally appraised, and its value or the proceeds from its sale will be split exactly 50-50 between us. No arguments. No negotiations. Clara looks up at me, her face a mixture of fury and despair. You cannot be serious. I am completely serious, I say. You will both sign it. Today. Right now. And if we do not? Clara challenges, a last spark of defiance in her eyes. I give her a cold smile. If you do not sign it, then I take my evidence to Aunt Carol. I take it to every single member of our family. I will even send a copy to your friend at the bank, the one who was going to give you the loan. I am sure he would be interested to learn about the fraudulent way you plan to secure it. Your Project Freedom will become very public. Your reputation, Clara, and yours, Mom, will be destroyed. Is that what you want? My mother is openly sobbing now. Please, Sarah, do not do this. I am not the one who did this, Mom, I say, my voice softening just a fraction. You did this. You and Clara. I am just cleaning up the mess. I place a pen on top of the document. Sign it, I say again. And this all goes away. The recording gets deleted. No one ever has to know how close you both came to ruining everything. We go back to being a family. A different kind of family. One with very clear, legally binding boundaries. Clara looks at my mother. My mother will not meet her gaze. She just keeps crying, her shoulders shaking. Mom, Clara says, her voice pleading. My mother looks up at me, her face streaked with tears and makeup. If I sign it, will you forgive me? She asks. I look at her. At the woman who was supposed to protect me, who instead chose to hurt me for the sake of her favored child. No, I say honestly, Forgiveness is not on the table today, Mom. All I can offer you is my silence. Sign the paper. The finality in my voice seems to break her. She picks up the pen, her hand shaking so much she can barely hold it. She scribbles her signature on the line. Then she pushes the folder towards Clara without a word. Clara stares at the paper for a long moment. I can see the war in her eyes. Her pride is fighting against her survival. In the end, survival wins. She snatches the pen and signs her name with an angry, jagged stroke. She shoves the folder back at me. There, she spits. Are you happy now? I pick up the document. I check the signatures. It is done. Happy is not the right word, I say, looking at them both. I feel free. I walk them to the door. They do not look at me. They do not look at each other. I will have my lawyer file this tomorrow, I say as they step out onto the porch. I will send you both a copy. Clara turns back to me, her face twisted with hate. You think you have won, do you not? This was not a game, Clara, I say. There are no winners, only consequences. And with that, I close the door on them. I lean against it, the legal document clutched in my hand. I am shaking now, the adrenaline finally starting to fade. I slide down to the floor, my legs no longer able to support me. I did it. I actually did it. Lily comes out of her room. She must have been listening from the hallway. She sits down on the floor next to me and wraps her arms around me. I am so proud of you. Mom, she says. I start to cry. Not tears of sadness or anger, but tears of pure, unadulterated relief. The weight I have been carrying for my entire life, the weight of not being good enough, has finally been lifted. The aftermath was quiet and strange. The family dynamic shifted overnight. The change was not loud or dramatic. It was felt in the silences, in the conversations that were no longer happening. My lawyer filed the agreement as promised. A notarized copy was sent to me, to Clara, and to my mother. It was a solid, legally binding fact that could not be ignored or wished away. It was a wall I had built to protect myself. Clara did not speak to me for a month. When she finally did, it was a stilted, formal text message asking about a minor family matter. There were no apologies, no acknowledgments. Her pride would never allow for that. But the cruelty was gone. The casual, cutting remarks disappeared. When she spoke to me now, it was with a guarded, grudging respect. The respect one has for an opponent who has bested you. Her financial situation, without the lifeline of the house, apparently became dire. I heard through Aunt Carol that she and her husband had to sell their oversized house and downsize significantly. They sold their luxury cars. Clara had to get a job, a real 9-to-5 job for the first time in 20 years. She could no longer maintain the illusion of wealth and leisure. Her irrelevance was no longer a weapon she could wield against me. It was her new reality. My relationship with my mother was the most complicated casualty. She tried to fix things. She called me a few days after the confrontation, crying. I am so sorry, Sarah, she said, her voice thick with regret. I never should have. I was wrong. Yes, you were, I said. My voice was not angry, just tired. I love you, she said, her voice cracking. You know that, right? I have always loved you. I know you love me in your own way, Mom, I said. But your love did not stop you from hurting me. Your love did not stop you from choosing Clara's wants over my well-being. Love is not just a feeling. It is an action. And your actions were very clear. There was a long silence on the line. What can I do to make it right? She finally asked. There is nothing you can do to erase what happened, I told her honestly. The only thing we can do is move forward, but things will be different. Our relationship has to be different now. And it was. I stopped trying to earn her approval. I stopped hoping she would one day see me as Clara's equal. I accepted that she was a flawed person who had made a terrible choice. I still saw her, I still called her. We had holidays together. But the old dynamic was gone. I kept a polite, careful distance. I no longer shared my vulnerabilities with her. I no longer sought her advice. The deep, trusting bond a daughter should have with her mother had been severed. And while that was a source of sadness, it was also a source of peace. I was no longer a child trying to please a parent who could not be pleased. I was an adult, standing on my own 2 feet. The most beautiful thing to come out of the wreckage was my relationship with Lily. We had always been close, but this experience bonded us in a new way. She had seen me at my lowest, and she had seen me fight back. One evening, a few months later, we were sitting on the couch watching a movie. "Are you sad about Grandma?" she asked me out of the blue. I thought about it for a moment. "Sometimes," I admitted. "I am sad for the relationship I wish we had. But I am not sad about the way things are now. I feel lighter." "You seem happier," she said. "I am," I told her, and I realized it was true. For a long time, I let them define my worth. I let them make me feel small, and I do not do that anymore. I looked at my incredible daughter, so wise and brave. "You know," I said, "Clara told me I was irrelevant, but she was wrong. What she did, what Mom did, it did not make me irrelevant. It made me realize that their opinions of me are irrelevant." Lily smiled. "Yeah," she said. "They are." A year passed. Life settled into a new normal. Clara was still struggling, a fact she tried to hide but that everyone in the family knew. My mother was quiet, subdued, always walking on eggshells around me. It was not a perfect, happy ending from a storybook. It was a real, messy, complicated resolution. But it was a resolution. One Saturday, I was cleaning out my home office. I found the folder with my copy of the legal agreement. I opened it and looked at their signatures. My mother's, shaky and tear-stained. Clara's, angry and sharp. I remembered the fear I felt that day, the terror of confronting them. But I also remembered the strength I found. The strength that came from knowing I was right, and from the love and support of my daughter and my friend. I closed the folder and put it back in the filing cabinet. I did not need to look at it anymore. The power was not in the paper. It was in me. I walked out into my living room. Lily was there, doing her homework at the dining table. She looked up and smiled at me. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of peace. Clara's words came back to me, but they had lost their sting. They were just words from a bitter, unhappy person. They had no power over me anymore. She had said I was finally irrelevant. But the truth was, I was finally free. And that was more relevant than anything else in the world. The legal document I had them sign became a quiet cornerstone of our new family structure. It was never mentioned, but its existence was a constant presence. It prevented any further attempts at financial manipulation. Clara knew she could not touch the house. My mother knew she had given up her ability to use it as a tool of favoritism. It was a permanent, unchangeable boundary. About 6 months after the confrontation, I got a call from Aunt Carol. "I heard from your mother yesterday," she said. She sounded different. "Different how?" I asked. "Subdued," Aunt Carol said. And she said the strangest thing. She said you had taken charge of some family business and put things in order. She actually sounded proud of you. I was surprised to hear that. Proud? She did not seem proud when it was happening. Well, maybe pride was the wrong word. Aunt Carol corrected herself. Maybe it was respect. The kind of respect you give someone you underestimated. She told me, "Sarah is much stronger than I ever gave her credit for." It is the first time in 40 years I have heard her say anything like that. It was a small thing, but it meant something. It was not forgiveness or a mended relationship, but it was an acknowledgement. My mother was beginning to see me not as her disappointing daughter, but as an equal. The changes in Clara were more visible. Having to get a job humbled her in a way nothing else could have. She worked in retail, in a department store. I happened to be there one day, shopping for a gift for Jessica. I saw her across the floor, folding sweaters. She looked tired. Her expensive clothes had been replaced by a simple work uniform. Her perfectly manicured nails were gone. She saw me. For a second, I saw a flash of the old Clara, a look of pure humiliation and hatred. But it passed quickly, replaced by a weary resignation. She gave me a stiff, tiny nod and then turned back to her sweaters. I did not go over to her. There was nothing to say. I just finished my shopping and left. Seeing her like that did not bring me joy. It was just a sad confirmation of the consequences of her own actions. She had built her identity on a foundation of superiority and money, and when that was gone, there was not much left. My life, on the other hand, began to open up. Freed from the constant, low-level stress of my family's dynamic, I found I had more energy. I started taking a painting class, something I had wanted to do for years but had always put off. I was not very good at first, but I loved it. It was something that was just for me. I also strengthened my friendship with Jessica. We started taking weekend trips together, exploring small towns and hiking trails. She had been my ally when I needed one most, and our bond deepened because of it. "You are like a different person," she told me one day as we were sitting by a lake. "I do not feel like a different person," I said. "I feel like I am finally the person I was always supposed to be." Lily graduated from high school with honors. At her graduation party, which I hosted at my house, my mother came. She brought a modest, thoughtful gift for Lily. She was quiet and polite. She watched me as I moved through the party, talking and laughing with my friends. She saw that my life was full. She saw that I had built a community of people who loved and respected me for who I was. Clara was invited, but she declined. She sent a generic card with $20 in it. It was a pathetic attempt at a slight, but it had no effect on me. I just felt a distant pity for her. Later that evening, after most of the guests had left, my mother approached me in the kitchen. "It was a lovely party, Sarah," she said. "Thank you, Mom," I said. She hesitated, then said, "I know I can never take back what I did. I know that sorry is not enough, but I want you to know that I see things differently now. I see you differently." "I am glad to hear that," I said, and I meant it. It was not a magical fix, but it was progress. It was a sign that maybe, over a long time, we could build something new. Not what we had before, but something more honest. A few weeks later, Lily was preparing to leave for college. We were packing up her room, sorting through years of memories. She found an old photo album. We sat on her bed and looked through it. There were pictures of me and Clara as children. In every photo, Clara was front and center, smiling for the camera. I was always in the background, slightly out of focus, looking shy. "Grandma always did that," Lily said, pointing to a picture. "She always told you to step back so Clara could be in the light." I looked at the picture of my younger self, and I felt a wave of compassion for her, for the little girl who was taught to make herself smaller. "It is okay," I said, more to that little girl than to Lily. "We know how to find our own light now." Lily closed the album. "Mom," she said, "that recording, do you still have it?" "Yes," I said. "It is saved in the cloud." "Why?" "You should delete it," she said. I was surprised. "Really? After everything? It is my insurance policy." "You do not need it anymore," she said, her voice firm and clear. "That paper you made them sign is your insurance policy. The recording, that is just holding on to the pain. You won." I thought about her words. She was right. The recording was a symbol of their betrayal, but holding on to it was like keeping a vial of poison in my pocket. I did not need it. My strength did not come from that recording. It came from within me. I took out my phone, found the file, and looked at it for a long moment. Then, I pressed delete. A confirmation box popped up. "Are you sure you want to permanently delete this item?" I pressed delete. It was gone. A sense of finality washed over me. It was truly over. I had faced the worst of it, and I had come out the other side, stronger and more whole than before. Clara's pursuit of a glamorous life had led her to make reckless decisions, and now she was living with the fallout. Her husband's business eventually went bankrupt, a fact that became public knowledge and a source of great shame for them. The downsizing Aunt Carol had mentioned was not just to a smaller house, but to a cramped apartment in a less desirable part of town. The fall from grace was severe and complete. I learned from a cousin that Clara had tried to borrow money from several other relatives, spinning tales of temporary setbacks. But the family grapevine was efficient. Aunt Carol, feeling a sense of loyalty to my father's memory and to me, had quietly told a few key people the truth about the situation with the house. She did not share the ugly details of the manipulation, but she made it clear that Clara's financial problems were deep and that our mother's house was not, and would never be, part of the solution. The family closed ranks, not against Clara, but against her attempts to drag them into her financial mess. The doors she had once found so easy to open were now firmly shut. My mother, in her own way, tried to atone. She started treating me with a new kind of deference. She would call to ask my opinion on things, from household repairs to what book she should read next. At first, it felt strange, almost like a role reversal. But I realized it was her clumsy way of showing respect, of acknowledging the authority I had claimed. One day, she called me with a specific request. "Sarah," she began, her voice hesitant. "I have been thinking. That house, it is too much for me, but I do not want to sell it. It is your father's legacy." I waited, unsure where this was going. "I was wondering," she continued, "if you would be willing to manage it for me. You are so good with these things. You could handle the property taxes, arrange for any repairs. I would, of course, give you the money for it all. I do not trust myself with it anymore. And I certainly cannot ask Clara." The irony was not lost on me. The very thing they had tried to cheat me out of, she was now willingly handing over for me to manage. It was a complete surrender. "I can do that, Mom," I said. It was a practical solution, and more importantly, it was a profound symbol of the power shift in our family. I was no longer the irrelevant daughter. I was the responsible one, the one she trusted. My life continued to blossom. The painting class led to a small local art show, where I sold 2 of my pieces. It was not about the money. It was about the validation. It was proof that I could create something of value, something that was entirely my own. When Lily came home for Thanksgiving during her first year of college, the family gathering was a stark contrast to my mother's birthday party. It was a small affair, just me, Lily, and my mother at my house. Clara had declined the invitation, saying she had to work. The truth, I suspected, was that she could not bear to face the new reality of our family. The meal was quiet, but not tense. It was peaceful. My mother watched Lily and me, a sad, wistful look in her eyes. I think in that moment she was finally seeing what she had almost thrown away: a relationship with her other daughter, a relationship with her granddaughter. She was seeing the cost of her favoritism in a way she never had before. After dinner, as my mother was preparing to leave, she turned to me at the door. "You have a good life, Sarah," she said softly. "A good home. A wonderful daughter. You have done well." "Thank you, Mom," I said. "I am the one who is irrelevant," she said, so quietly I almost did not hear her. "I made myself irrelevant in your life. I have to live with that." It was the closest she ever came to a full confession, to admitting the scope of her failure as a mother. I did not know what to say, so I just gave her a brief hug. It was still an awkward hug, not the warm, natural embrace of the past. But it was something. As I closed the door, I realized the story was finally complete. The revenge was not in Clara's downfall or my mother's regret. The true victory was not what I had done to them, but what I had done for myself. I had refused to accept the role they had written for me. I had taken the script, torn it up, and written my own. I walked back into the living room where Lily was clearing the table. She smiled at me. And in her smile, I saw my future. It was a future I had fought for, a future I had earned, and it was bright. I was no longer in the background, out of focus. I was front and center, in my own life. And I was finally, completely in the light.